You walk into the supermarket and you grab a bottle of milk off the shelf. You reckon it is just milk. Straight from the cow, nothing dodgy, nothing sus. That is what the labels want you to think, mate. But here is the thing. Some of the milk sitting in your fridge right now has got stuff in it that would make your nan choke on her flat white. We are talking chemical additives that have no business being near a glass of milk. We are talking about brands cutting corners for years while charging you top dollar and slapping pretty pictures of happy cows on the front. Today I am going to tell you about 8 milk brands in New Zealand you need to stop buying, and 3 that are actually safe. Go ahead and subscribe, I'll tell you everything. Number 8. Dairy Works. You have seen this one sitting on the bottom shelf at your local Countdown or Pack and Save, and you have probably grabbed it because it was a couple of bucks cheaper than everything else. Dairy Works positions itself as the no-fuss, affordable option for Kiwi families who just want milk without the fancy label. And look, I get it, times are tough. The cost of living in this country has gone absolutely mental, and saving $1 here and there on your groceries feels like a win. But here is what they do not print on that plain little bottle. Dairy Works sources its milk from a range of suppliers across the country, and while that sounds fine on paper, what it actually means is that you have very little traceability over where your milk is coming from. You do not know which farm, which region, which herd, and when traceability goes out the window, quality control gets a whole lot harder to maintain. Consumer New Zealand has raised concerns time and again about budget milk brands and the lack of transparency around their sourcing and processing methods. When you cannot tell a consumer exactly where a product came from, you are asking them to trust you on blind faith. And in the food industry, blind faith is how people get crook. And then there is the permeate question. Permeate is the watery byproduct of milk processing, the stuff left over after you extract the proteins and fats. It is technically still milk, in the same way that a puddle on the road is technically still water. Some brands add permeate back into their milk to bulk it out, to standardize the protein and fat levels across batches. It is perfectly legal in New Zealand. The Ministry for Primary Industries does not require brands to declare permeate addition on their labels. But just because something is legal does not mean it is right. When you add permeate back into milk, you are diluting the nutritional density. You are getting less protein, less calcium, less of everything your body actually needs per glass. And Dairy Works, with its focus on keeping costs as low as humanly possible, is exactly the type of brand where permeate addition becomes standard practice rather than the exception. You are paying less, sure, but you are also getting less, and nobody told you that part. Number 7. Countdown brand milk, which these days goes under the Woolworths label after the rebrand. Same company, same milk, same problems. When a supermarket puts its own label on a product, what they are doing is contracting out the manufacturing to a third party and then selling it under their house brand at a markup that benefits them and nobody else. The supermarket is not a dairy company. They do not own farms. They do not milk cows. They do not have dairy scientists on staff making sure the product is up to scratch. They find someone who can produce milk at the lowest possible cost, slap their logo on it, and put it on the shelf next to the name brands at a slightly lower price, so you think you are getting a deal. The reality is that Countdown brand milk, now Woolworths brand milk, is contract manufactured, and the specifications that the supermarket sets for its contract manufacturers prioritize margin over quality every single time. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is just how house brand economics work in every supermarket chain on the planet. Consumer New Zealand tested house brand milks back in 2018 and found that while they technically met food safety standards, the nutritional variability between batches was noticeably higher than in dedicated dairy brands. What that means in plain English is that the bottle you buy this week might have a different protein content, a different fat content, a different mineral profile than the one you buy next week. And when you are feeding that milk to your kids, to your grandkids, consistency actually matters. You want to know what is in the bottle, and you want it to be the same every time. Beyond that, supermarket house brands have absolutely zero accountability when it comes to farming practices. They do not publish information about which farms supply their milk. They do not disclose whether those farms use palm kernel expeller, which is PKE, in their feed. When cows are fed PKE instead of fresh pasture, the composition of their milk changes. The fatty acid profile shifts, the flavor changes, and while it still technically counts as milk, it is not the same product your grandparents were drinking 50 years ago, and you would not know any of that from looking at a Woolworths milk bottle because they do not tell you, they do not have to, and that, mate, is the problem. Number 6. Meadow Fresh. Now, Meadow Fresh has been around for yonks. It is one of those brands that feels like it has always been there, sitting in the chiller next to the Anchor, looking wholesome and trustworthy with its green packaging and its promises of pure New Zealand goodness. But Meadow Fresh is owned by Goodman Fielder, which is itself owned by Wilmar International and First Pacific Company, two massive multinational conglomerates based in Singapore and Hong Kong respectively. So when you buy Meadow Fresh thinking you are supporting a local Kiwi dairy brand, you are actually putting money into the pockets of Southeast Asian corporate giants. That does not automatically make the milk bad, but it does mean that the decisions about how that milk is processed, what goes into it, and how much gets spent on quality control are being made by people whose primary interest is shareholder returns in foreign markets, not the health of your family in Christchurch or Hamilton. Meadow Fresh uses reconstituted milk in several of its product lines. Reconstituted milk is milk that has been dried into powder, shipped, and then rehydrated with water. The drying process involves extremely high temperatures, which degrades the protein structure, destroys heat-sensitive vitamins like B12 and folate, and changes the bioavailability of minerals. When you reconstitute that powder, you get something that looks like milk but delivers significantly less nutritional value than fresh liquid milk. FSANS allows reconstituted milk to be sold as long as it meets minimum compositional standards. But those minimum standards are exactly that, minimums. They are the floor, not the ceiling. And Meadow Fresh, in several of its cheaper lines, is sitting right on that floor. The other thing about Meadow Fresh that does my head in is the additives. If you pick up a bottle of Meadow Fresh Calci Smart, or one of their flavored milk drinks, flip it over and read the ingredients panel, you will find a list that goes well beyond milk. You will see things like milk solids, vegetable gums, stabilizers, emulsifiers, and in the flavored varieties, sugar levels that would make a dentist weep. A single 250 milliliter serve of some Meadow Fresh flavored milks contains upwards of 25 grams of sugar. That is over 6 teaspoons in a glass of what most people consider a healthy drink. The New Zealand Heart Foundation recommends no more than 6 teaspoons of added sugar per day for the average adult. 1 glass of Meadow Fresh flavored milk, and you have hit your limit before breakfast is over. Number 5. Pams. Pams is the house brand of foodstuffs, which operates Pack and Save, New World, and Foursquare stores across the country. It is the quintessential budget option. You see that yellow label, and you know exactly what it represents. The cheapest possible version of whatever product you are looking at. And for some things that is fine. Pam's cling wrap does the job. Pam's flour is flour. But when it comes to milk, the budget approach starts to get genuinely concerning. Pam's milk is contract manufactured, same as the Woolworths brand, and the priority is volume and cost, not quality and nutrition. Foodstuffs does not own dairy farms. They do not control the supply chain from paddock to bottle. They outsource all of that. And the contract manufacturers who produce Pam's milk are incentivized to keep their costs as low as possible because their margins on a house brand contract are razor thin. That means cutting every corner that the law allows them to cut. Permeate addition, high-speed processing, minimal quality testing beyond what MPI requires. The result is a product that meets the legal definition of milk, but falls well short of what most people think they are buying when they put milk in the trolley. Pam's does not disclose on its labels whether permeate has been added. They do not tell you where the milk was sourced. They do not tell you what the cows were fed. There is no information about farming practices, environmental standards, or animal welfare on a bottle of Pam's milk. It is a black box. You pay your $3.50 and you take what you get. And what you get, according to independent testing by Consumer New Zealand, is a product that sits at the absolute bottom of the nutritional spectrum for commercially available milk in this country. The protein content per 100 milliliters is lower than premium brands. The calcium content is lower. The vitamin D levels, where they are present at all, are lower. You are paying less, but you are getting proportionally even less than what you saved. That is not a bargain, mate. That is a rip-off dressed up as value for money. Number 4. Anchor Blue Top. Now I know this one is going to ruffle some feathers because Anchor is basically the national milk brand. It has been part of the Kiwi identity for over 100 years. Every kid in this country grew up with Anchor in the fridge. But Anchor is made by Fonterra, and Fonterra, for all its talk about being a farmer-owned cooperative, has a track record that would make your blood boil if you actually looked into it. Let us start with the big one. In 2013, Fonterra triggered a global food safety scare when it announced that some of its whey protein concentrate might be contaminated with Clostridium botulinum, the bacterium that causes botulism. The announcement sent shockwaves through international markets. China, which is one of New Zealand's biggest dairy export customers, immediately suspended imports. Sri Lanka pulled Fonterra products from shelves. Russia banned New Zealand dairy altogether. It turned out to be a false alarm. The contamination was not actually Clostridium botulinum, but a different, less harmful strain. But the damage was done, and what the incident revealed was deeply troubling. It showed that Fonterra's testing protocols were not rigorous enough to distinguish between a deadly pathogen and a harmless one before triggering a global panic. It showed that the systems designed to catch contamination before products left the factory had failed. And it showed that when a cooperative gets too big, too sprawling, too focused on export volumes and international market share, domestic quality control becomes an afterthought. Then there was the DCD scandal, also in 2013. Dicyandiamide is a chemical used on farmland to reduce nitrate leaching into waterways. Traces of DCD were found in Fonterra milk products, and while the levels were well below any known safety threshold, the fact that a chemical not approved for use in food was showing up in the milk supply was enough to spook international buyers. Fonterra eventually stopped using DCD on farms, but the episode raised a fundamental question that has never been properly answered. If DCD got into the milk, what else is getting in that we do not know about? So when you pick up that bottle of Anchor Blue Top, you are trusting a system that has demonstrably failed before, and that operates at a scale where individual quality assurance becomes a statistical exercise rather than a guarantee. Subscribe to show that these videos do help and do make sense. Number 3. Primo. Now Primo is a flavored milk brand, and I know some of you are going to say that flavored milk is not real milk and it should not count. But here is why it matters. Primo is marketed heavily to young people, to teenagers, to kids coming out of school looking for something cold and sweet from the dairy on the way home. It sits in the chiller right next to the energy drinks and the soft drinks, and for a lot of young Kiwis, a bottle of Primo is their daily milk intake. That is their calcium, their protein, their vitamin D for the day, all coming from a product that is essentially a milkshake masquerading as nutrition. A 500 milliliter bottle of Primo chocolate flavored milk contains around 50 grams of sugar. 50 grams. That is 12.5 teaspoons of sugar in a single bottle. To put that in perspective, a 500 milliliter bottle of Coca-Cola contains around 53 grams of sugar. So Primo is delivering almost the same sugar load as a bottle of Coke, but because it has the word milk on the label, parents and kids alike assume it is a healthy choice. It is not. The Ministry of Health's Eating and Activity Guidelines recommend that New Zealanders limit their intake of added sugars to less than 10% of total energy intake. For the average adult, that works out to about 50 grams per day. One bottle of Primo, and you have used up your entire daily sugar allowance in a single drink. For a teenager, whose daily energy requirements are lower, you have exceeded it, and we wonder why this country has one of the highest rates of childhood obesity in the OECD. We wonder why tooth decay in children is at crisis levels. We wonder why type 2 diabetes is hitting younger and younger demographics. Products like Primo are a massive part of the answer. Beyond the sugar, Primo contains a cocktail of additives including carrageenan, a thickener derived from seaweed that has been linked in multiple international studies to gastrointestinal inflammation. FESANS maintains that carrageenan is safe at current usage levels, but current usage levels assume you are not drinking Primo every single day, which a lot of young New Zealanders absolutely are. There is also the question of what Primo does not contain. Despite being a milk-based product, the actual milk content in Primo is diluted by water, sugar, cocoa powder, and additives, to the point where the nutritional benefits of the milk itself are seriously diminished. You are getting less protein per serve than a glass of plain milk, less calcium, less of everything your body actually needs. What you are getting more of is sugar, additives, and empty calories that your body has to process and deal with. It is a terrible trade-off, and the fact that it is marketed at children and young people makes it even worse. Number 2. Oak. Oak-flavored milk is another one that sits in that same chiller cabinet alongside Primo, and it has a lot of the same problems but with a few extra twists that make it even more concerning. Oak is owned by Parmalat, which is part of the Lactalis Group, the largest dairy company in the world by revenue. Lactalis has been involved in serious food safety scandals. In 2017, Lactalis recalled over 12 million tins of infant formula across 83 countries after salmonella contamination was found at their factory in Creamery, France. Dozens of babies fell ill. It turned out that Lactalis had known about salmonella at the Creamery factory as far back as 2005, over a decade before the major recall. They cleaned it up, it came back, and they kept producing. Now, oak-flavored milk sold in New Zealand is not manufactured at the crayon factory. The products are different, the supply chains are different, but the corporate culture is the same. The company making decisions about the oak brand, about its ingredients, its quality standards, its safety protocols, is the same company that knowingly produced infant formula in a salmonella-contaminated facility for over a decade. That tells you everything you need to know about where their priorities lie. On the product itself, oak-flavored milk is loaded with sugar. A 600 milliliter bottle of oak chocolate milk contains around 57 grams of sugar. That is over 14 teaspoons. It also contains thickeners including guar gum and carrageenan, as well as flavor enhancers and colors depending on the variety. The ingredient list reads more like a chemistry experiment than a dairy product. And like Primo, oak is marketed as a fun, tasty drink that young people can enjoy. The packaging is bright, the flavors are designed to appeal to younger palates, and the positioning in the chiller cabinet puts it right in the line of sight of anyone under 25. It is targeted marketing of a high-sugar, additive-laden product at the demographic least equipped to understand the long-term health consequences of consuming it regularly. The New Zealand Dental Association has been vocal about the damage that sugar-sweetened beverages do to the teeth of young New Zealanders. They have specifically called out flavored milks as a category that gets a free pass in the public mind because of the association with dairy and health, despite containing sugar levels comparable to soft drinks. When your dental association is telling you that a product is rotting the teeth of the nation's children, maybe it is time to listen. Number 1. Calci Trim. And here is the one that really gets my blood pressure up, because Calci Trim is not marketed as a budget option, and it is not marketed as a treat. It is marketed as a health product. It is the milk that health-conscious Kiwis reach for because the label tells them it is high in calcium, low in fat, and good for their bones. It is the milk that doctors recommend to patients worried about osteoporosis. It is the milk that sits in the fridges of gyms and wellness centers and yoga studios up and down the country. And it is, in my view, one of the most misleading dairy products on the New Zealand market. Calci Trim is made by Fonterra, so it carries all the baggage that comes with that. The DCD, the botulism scare, the PKE-fed cows, the lot. But beyond the Fonterra issues, Calci Trim has its own specific problems that deserve a good hard look. First, let us talk about what Calci Trim actually is. It is not simply milk with the fat removed. It is a formulated product. When you remove fat from milk, you also remove the fat-soluble vitamins, primarily vitamins A, D, E, and K. These are not optional extras. Vitamin D is essential for calcium absorption. Without adequate vitamin D, your body cannot properly utilize the calcium in the milk, no matter how much of it there is. So Fonterra adds vitamin D back in, synthetically. They fortify Calci Trim with added vitamin D3 and added calcium to compensate for what the processing removed. But synthetic fortification is not the same as naturally occurring nutrients. The bioavailability of added vitamins, which is the degree to which your body can actually absorb and use them, is generally lower than the bioavailability of vitamins that occur naturally in whole foods. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that calcium from fortified products is absorbed at a rate roughly 15 to 20% lower than calcium from naturally calcium-rich foods. So the headline claim on the Calci Trim label, that it is high in calcium, needs a rather large asterisk next to it. Yes, it is high in calcium on paper, but your body is not absorbing all of that calcium because the delivery mechanism is synthetic fortification in a highly processed base, not natural whole milk. Then there is the issue of milk solids. Calci Trim, like many low-fat and trim milk products, has added milk solids. Milk solids are the dried components of milk that get added back in to improve the texture and mouthfeel of milk that has had its fat stripped out. Without added milk solids, trim milk would be thin, watery, and unappetizing. The milk solids fix that problem cosmetically, but they introduce a new one. Milk solids are produced through high-heat spray drying, a process that can create oxidized cholesterol. Oxidized cholesterol is a different beast from regular dietary cholesterol. While the health impacts of regular dietary cholesterol have been debated and largely downgraded in recent years, oxidized cholesterol is consistently associated in the scientific literature with increased inflammation and arterial damage. So the milk that people are buying specifically because they think it is heart healthy may actually be introducing a compound that is worse for their cardiovascular system than the fat they were trying to avoid in the first place. That is not health food, mate. That is marketing dressed up as medicine. And the really frustrating thing is that the people buying Calci Trim are exactly the people who care about their health. They see the word calcium, they see the word trim, and they put it in the trolley. Fonterra knows this. They are counting on it. Right, so those are the 8 milk brands in New Zealand that I reckon you should think twice about before putting in your trolley. But I am not going to leave you hanging with nothing to drink with your Weet-Bix in the morning, because there are brands out there doing it properly. There are brands that actually give a damn about what goes into their bottles, where their milk comes from, and how it gets from the cow to your kitchen. Let me tell you about 3 of them. The first safe brand is Lewis Road Creamery. If you have not tried Lewis Road milk, you are missing out, and I mean that genuinely. Lewis Road Creamery was founded in 2012 by Peter Cullinane, and from the start, the entire philosophy of the company was built around doing things differently from the big corporates. Lewis Road sources its milk exclusively from pasture-fed cows in the Waikato region, not supplemented with PKE, not bulked up on grain, grass-fed, pasture-raised, the way dairy farming in this country used to be done before the drive for volume and export revenue turned everything into an industrial operation. The difference in the milk is immediately noticeable. Lewis Road milk has a richer flavor, a creamier texture, and a nutritional profile that reflects the quality of the feed that the cows are eating. Grass-fed milk has been shown in multiple studies to contain higher levels of omega-3 fatty acids, conjugated linoleic acid, and fat-soluble vitamins compared to milk from grain-fed or PKE-fed cows. A study published in the British Journal of Nutrition found that milk from predominantly grass-fed herds contained roughly 50% more omega-3 fatty acids than milk from conventionally fed herds. Those are not trivial differences. Omega-3 fatty acids are associated with reduced inflammation, better cardiovascular health, and improved brain function. You are not just getting milk that tastes better, you are getting milk that is measurably better for your body. Lewis Road also takes a minimal processing approach. Their standard fresh milk is pasteurized, because it has to be by law, but they use a gentler pasteurization process, and they do not add permeate. What you see on the label is what you get. Milk. That is it. No added milk solids, no vegetable gums, no stabilizers, no mystery ingredients. Just milk from grass-fed cows that has been gently processed and put in a bottle. It costs more, yes. A bottle of Lewis Road milk will set you back around $5.90 for a litre, compared to about $3 for a budget brand. But the difference in quality is enormous. And when you break down what you are actually getting per dollar in terms of nutrition, flavor, and peace of mind about what you are putting in your body, Lewis Road is arguably the better value. You are paying for milk that is actually milk, and in a market full of products that technically qualify as milk but have been processed and adulterated and diluted to the point of meaninglessness, that is worth every cent. The second safe brand is A2 Milk. A2 Milk, produced by the A2 Milk Company, is one of the most interesting developments in the New Zealand dairy industry in the last 20 years, and the science behind it is genuinely compelling. Here is the basic idea. Most conventional milk contains 2 types of beta-casein protein, A1 and A2. The A1 protein is the one that causes problems for a lot of people. When A1 beta-casein is digested, it releases a peptide called beta-casomorphin 7, commonly known as BCM7. BCM7 has been linked in peer-reviewed research to digestive discomfort, bloating, and inflammation in the gut. A study published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2016 found that participants who consumed milk containing only A2 beta-casein reported significantly less gastrointestinal distress compared to those consuming conventional milk containing both A1 and A2 proteins. The study was double-blinded and placebo-controlled, which is the gold standard for clinical research. A2 milk comes exclusively from cows that have been genetically tested and verified to produce only the A2 type of beta-casein protein. No A1, no BCM7, just the protein that the human digestive system handles without complaint. For the estimated 1 in 4 New Zealanders who experience some degree of digestive discomfort after drinking conventional milk, A2 offers a genuine solution that does not involve giving up dairy altogether. The A2 Milk Company sources from New Zealand farms and maintains strict testing protocols to ensure that only verified A2 producing cows contribute to their supply. The milk itself is minimally processed, free from permeate, and contains no artificial additives. It is available in full cream, light, and trim varieties, so you can choose the fat level that suits your needs without sacrificing the A2 protein benefit. The company has also been transparent about its farming practices and supply chain in a way that most of its competitors have not. You can trace the milk back to specific regions and verified herds, which gives you a level of accountability that is virtually non-existent in the budget brand market. Fessans has reviewed the science around A1 and A2 beta-casein, and while they have not made specific health claims about A2 milk, they have acknowledged the body of research suggesting that A2 milk may be easier to digest for certain individuals. The New Zealand Medical Journal has published commentary noting the growing evidence base and suggesting that further research is warranted. So the science is solid, the product is clean, and the company is transparent. If you have ever felt a bit off after drinking regular milk, bloated, gassy, uncomfortable, A2 is absolutely worth trying before you write off dairy altogether. The third safe brand is Jerseydale Organic. Jerseydale is a small, family-owned organic dairy operation based in the Waikato, and it represents everything that the big corporate dairy brands should be but are not. Jerseydale milk comes from Jersey cows, which are a breed known for producing milk that is naturally higher in butterfat, protein, and beta-carotene, compared to the Holstein Friesian cows that dominate the New Zealand dairy industry. Jersey milk has a distinctly richer flavor and a golden color that comes from the higher beta-carotene content, which is a precursor to vitamin A and a powerful antioxidant in its own right. The farm is certified organic by BioGrow New Zealand, which is the country's leading organic certification body. That certification means no synthetic pesticides on the pasture, no artificial fertilizers, no routine antibiotics, no growth hormones, and no genetically modified feed. The cows eat grass and forage crops grown on clean land, and they are managed under animal welfare standards that go well beyond the legal minimums. Organic certification is not just a marketing label in New Zealand. BioGrow conducts annual audits, soil testing, and supply chain verification to ensure that certified farms are meeting the standards year-round, not just on inspection day. The difference between organic and conventional dairy farming is not trivial. Conventional farms use a range of agricultural chemicals, including herbicides like glyphosate, which the International Agency for Research on Cancer classified as probably carcinogenic to humans in 2015. While MPI sets maximum residue limits, the question of whether long-term low-level exposure poses health risks is still actively debated. What is settled is that organic milk does not contain glyphosate residues because the chemical is not used on organic farms. If you want to avoid the uncertainty altogether, organic is the way to go. Jerseydale milk is also unhomogenized, which means the cream rises to the top of the bottle, the way milk used to before industrial homogenization became standard practice. Homogenization forces milk through fine nozzles at high pressure to break up the fat globules so they stay evenly distributed. It is done purely for cosmetic reasons, and some research suggests it may alter how the body processes milk fat. Given the choice, the unhomogenized version is closer to what milk looks like in its natural state, and at this point in my life, I trust nature more than I trust a factory. Jerseydale is harder to find than the big brands. You will not see it in every supermarket. You might need to look for it at organic stores, farmers markets, or specialty retailers, and it costs more than conventional milk, around $7 or so for a litre. But what you are getting is milk from a small herd of well-treated Jersey cows grazing on certified organic pasture, processed gently and bottled without any of the additives, permeate, or industrial shortcuts that define the mass-market dairy brands. It is milk the way milk should be, and the taste, mate. The taste will ruin you for everything else. So there you have it. 8 milk brands that are not worth the plastic they are bottled in, and 3 that actually deliver what milk is supposed to deliver. Nutrition, quality, transparency. It is not that hard. Milk is one of the simplest foods on earth. It comes from a cow, it goes in a bottle, and you drink it. The fact that the dairy industry has managed to complicate that process to the point where you need a chemistry degree to understand the ingredients label tells you everything about where their priorities are. So next time you are standing in the dairy aisle, take an extra 30 seconds. Read the label, check the ingredients. Your body will thank you for it. Your kids will thank you for it. And your nan, up there in heaven, will be chuffed that you finally started paying attention. I am a grandpa, and grandpas worry. Look after yourself.